Today is Tuesday, September 9th, 2025 at 6:30 PM. And this is a joint public hearing between the Economic Development Committee and the Planning Board. So first statement is called to order. This meeting is being recorded by the EDC. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify the chairperson at this time. And nobody is here, so you want to open your meeting?
Yes, thank you. Let's call this meeting of the planning board to order, also at 6:30 PM. And similar, this meeting is being recorded, and if anyone were to show up, we would ask them if they're recording to inform the chair at this time. And I'll refer to the EDC to do a roll call of members.
Yeah, so next on the agenda is roll call of EDC members. Councilor Mashatero. Here. Councilor Gordon.
Here.
Councilor Bullock.
Here.
Councilor Minhas.
Here.
And I am here as well. So we have 5 out of 5. That's great.
And there is someone in the waiting room now.
There's somebody. Perfect. Thank you. Peter.
You're up also. Hi, Peter, can you hear us okay?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, very good. Peter,
All
do you have that form, by the way?
I do.
Very good, thank you. Okay, so we'll do a roll call of members. I'll start and we'll go down the line here. George Tlemcen, I'm the vice chair of this the planning board, and I'll be chairing today because the chair is not here.
Victor Michelle, a member.
Tom?
Tom Bledsoe, alternate.
Sarah Brown Anson, member.
You, Peter?
Peter McIver, planning board member.
And I will, since we know that Jeff isn't here, I will elevate Tom to a voting member as alternate.
All right. The next item on our agenda is approval of minutes, August 12th, 2025. Can I get a motion
So moved.
and a second? Perfect. And we have to do roll call. So Councilor Mashatero.
Yeah.
Councilor Gordon.
Yep.
Councilor Bullock.
Yes.
Councilor Minhas.
Yes.
I'm a yes. All right. The next item on the agenda is public comment as required by the city of Greenfield, chapter 49, article 3, hybrid meetings. And it doesn't look like we have anybody. Do we have anybody online? No, we do not. So we're gonna open the public meeting next. So
We have no minutes or anything like that to approve.
no minutes? Okay. All right, so next, we're gonna open the public hearing at 6:33.
Agreed?
And in this, we're gonna discuss zoning amendments to the definition of animal kennel and hospital. Do we have discussion in the public hearing and then go to motions after? Is that?
I think you close the public hearing and then you do the
have
motion.
That's what I thought. Thank you. Been a while. So since we have nothing to talk about in the public hearing, we are gonna close the public hearing at 6:34. And we are gonna move on to motions. So the first item on the agenda is the zoning amendment to the definition of the animal kennel and hospital. From what I can understand from that, we were getting rid of the word kennel. We were replacing it with animal hospital for some language from the state. Is that a correct assumption?
I think it would be helpful, and I mentioned this because obviously no members of the public are present. But for members of the public who might watch this, I think it would be helpful to read the at the end of the materials, at least we received a paragraph about the reason for the proposed zoning amendments. I think it would be good to read that.
Want me to read that or?
But
But
if you
we
would,
have to read the motion and then
Okay.
we have to have
Very
it
good.
seconded.
Okay.
thank you.
What did I do without you?
Want me to do it? I can do it.
I got it.
Okay.
So order number FY 26-030. The city council moved that it be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200, article 2, definitions, section 200-3 by adding language in bold and by deleting language and strike through as follows in exhibit A, and further amends that the table of contents and index of this code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield.
Second.
And just wanted to point out someone's in the waiting room.
Thank you. So now we can enter discussion. You feel like reading it?
Sure, I'm happy. So the reason for this proposed zoning amendment, on September 20th, 2024, an act to increase kennel safety, also known as Ollie's Law, was signed by Governor Stoltenberg. The passing of Ollie's Law gives the Massachusetts Department of Agricultural Resources, MDAR, the ability to work with an appointed advisory committee to create standards and enact regulations for commercial boarding and training kennels, including dog daycares. Ollie's Law also clarifies existing kennel license requirements, requires municipalities to report kennel licenses to MDAR, requires kennels to report any injuries that occur to the municipality, and establishes enforcement protocols for the municipality, which allow the state to assist when necessary. A municipality cannot require a special permit for animal kennels if there is licensing process through the city clerk. The Greenfield City Clerk's office does have an existing licensing process for kennels. Therefore, the special permit requirement for animal kennels needs to be eliminated. The existing definition of animal hospital also needs to be amended by eliminating the mention of animal kennels.
It looks like someone's in the waiting room.
So essentially, we're creating two bodies, animal medical centers and clinics and animal kennels.
No, kennels is eliminated.
Kennels is
Because
eliminated.
kennels is handled
But there's a
through
licensing. for
licensing.
kennels.
That's not handled through zoning. It's handled through the
License.
clerk.
Okay.
And actually, just to respond to your, the term was changed from hospital to medical center / clinic in the ordinance proposal.
And it's very clear that it's just for animals, just because that's the
Yes.
outrage you're getting from a lot of people.
Oh,
Animal, yes.
Yeah, they're hearing
That's the first word.
medical clinic and they're assuming that it's a medical clinic, right? So
The
that
previous-
doesn't require.
previous definition just said for care of dogs,
Mhm.
which would mean anything like this would be prohibited. I mean, it would be in that definition. This now says medical, clinic that's outpatient is now allowed or not allowed, depending on the district. But it sort of clarifies now a use that didn't really it was just sort of in two words, care of, that was it. So now we have inpatient, which is hospital, which is the kind of whole thing. Or we have outpatient, which is now clarify what it is, but it says strictly outpatient. We did have someone who brought this to our attention, who was interested in a potential outpatient care on Cherry Run Plaza, where there's plenty of outpatient. This would be for dogs and cats.
Mhm.
But that's not allowed because that would fall underneath kennel right now, which is prohibited.
Mhm.
So this will now allow urgent care for animals essentially, and facilities of urgent care, daycare in a facility that also would be allowed for people, but just no overnight. Where it's allowed, some places it's not allowed, but now in the general commercial, it would be allowed. So Cherry Run, for example,
Mhm.
that use would not be allowed.
Well, that was my question. How did you folks determine what districts you're gonna put these in? I noticed you've changed some, but haven't changed others. Because there's no mandate according to what I read from the governor where these have to go. So you guys must have had,
These being,
huh?
these being,
Where an outpatient,
right, but the governor's thing only refers to kennels. It doesn't refer to.
Okay, all right,
That's just a separate issue entirely.
so Betty,
That, we're cleaning that up
Doing
for
them at the same
ourselves
time.
while we're at it.
so my
But the
question,
governor thing has nothing to do with,
so my question is how did you determine where you propose these, this or these facilities would go?
would be allowed.
I believe the discussion centered around matching where human medical facilities were allowed. So since it's a similar concept for medical facilities for animals, I think that's how the discussion was, that it would make sense to have
Usually,
animal
uh,
facilities.
animal hospitals are in rural areas. On the road, or it's the road, or maybe even up by the office park. But you've got, you haven't touched those.
This is not an animal hospital. That's what we
It's a
have.
veterinary, it's a veterinarian.
It's a clinic.
Right.
And because animal hospitals are overnight,
Right.
and that's what this is not. But before, all we had was overnight or nothing. So now we're saying for a non-overnight stay, just daytime service, that outpatient service only.
Mhm.
Where you have employee, I mean, it's a very similar arrangement. People are driving in, they're driving out, nothing happening in the evening. We thought it was very similar to the same kind of medical care for adults, humans. So
Yeah, I mean, I actually disagree with what you're saying because, I mean, there are like the vet that I go to, that I take my dog to is in a residential neighborhood in Northampton. I live in, Four Corners
Mhm.
neighborhood, and Greenfield Veterinary Clinic is on the corner. And, it's certainly not a disturbance to anyone in my neighborhood. I
Well,
mean, if
I-
anything, I'm glad to be able to like walk my dog.
I'm thinking
over-
more of the
vet,
animals say, like, for instance, I'll give you a perfect example. You suggested this goes from the GI, right? That it's no longer a no, but a yes, general industry. I live right off of Wells Street. The west side of Wells Street is residential. Look directly across the street is general industry. Now, I wouldn't want to bring my dog to a clinic that happened to be right next door to the tree service for the sake of the dog, I mean, it's not like,
they're not running outside. It's not like that. This is just they're gonna get out of their car.
no, my
And
point,
bringing them into the office.
Yeah, I don't understand the rationale of like residents can live there, but a dog couldn't come in and out of a clinic, or like a clinic couldn't operate there.
well,
Is that what you're arguing for?
It's not like a doggy daycare, but.
No.
Well, I think the distinction for me is that it's not overnight. Like what would interrupt quiet enjoyment in an area that allows there to be industry and business would be overnight noise, like beyond business hours. And that's what's not allowed with this, correct?
Right, in residential, it's special permit.
Right. So it's only where there's already businesses in operation or medical facilities that are.
Well, that's my point. Residential is special permit, yet a place directly across the street from a residence is permitted.
Yeah, but that's true.
Own general
That's
industry.
true of anything that is permitted in one type of zoning and not another, right? Like that's just because we have to have a boundary somewhere between different.
Well, it
zones.
depends on-
Like, it doesn't mean that anyone has to put their animal
Right.
clinic there, like it might be a terrible place for it, and so probably no one's gonna open an animal clinic there.
I'll call on myself for a second to
Yeah.
throw several threads in here. One is this Ollie's Law, which necessitated the elimination of kennels.
Right.
And then we had this one individual who was advocating for a clinic in a certain area, so was asking about that zoning in that area. And so the planning board, that triggered the planning board to think of that, but the planning board didn't want to say, oh, we're only going to look at that zone. The planning board was considering, oh, let's look at all the zone and then say, okay, we're not looking at kennels anymore. So that's why the thinking about it changed a lot. You wouldn't want a kennel maybe across from what you're talking about. But a clinic would be different. That could be okay, because you wouldn't want dogs across from a tree service in a kennel perhaps, but maybe it would be okay to have a clinic. And so that's why there was a lot of discussion and thinking through the various rationales for where it would be okay. And you'll see that in the more intensely dense areas, like the semi-residential and stuff, it was changed from a special permit to a no. So there was quite a bit of thoughtfulness about trying to distinguish which areas would be okay and which not.
You know, the GI is pretty dense, but I'm not gonna push it. I just.
No, I just wanted to give the.
I wish that would go away. I don't know if we consider that.
Are medical facilities allowed in the GI?
Yes,
Yes.
that was sort of our thinking, you know, sort of like, how much do you tailor it, or if you're treating one this way, what's the argument not to go?
And I kind of had a follow-up question because we were talking about overnights, right? So does our zoning not permit any overnight animal hospitals? Because I don't see anything allowing overnight hospitals, but we're saying we can't have them. So like that would be my only
Yeah.
thing that I see in here that I don't agree with at this point is like being selfish. I've had to bring my dog to Deerfield at 3 a.m. It'd be nice if there was something in Greenfield to bring your pet to, for an overnight emergency. So, you know, I'd like to keep that in mind too. Like, do we need a separate section for animal hospitals,
Separate from.
which are overnight applicable, that would be allowed in certain zoning districts as well? Because I wouldn't want to permit a hospital from opening in Greenfield because I think it would serve the public pretty well.
How are they distinguished and regulated, animal hospitals versus kennels? And does Ollie's law apply to animal hospitals, or is it only applying to kennels? And what's really the difference even?
Ollie's law has nothing to do with it. I
Right.
think.
Yeah, all these laws just for kennels,
Just for kennels.
saying we can't have zoning that stops.
But current law says both kennels and hospitals, and we're getting rid of it, but that means we get rid of hospitals too.
Mhm.
And you're saying, maybe we shouldn't get rid of hospitals or need hospitals.
I mean, let me ask, I watched the recording a couple times, but I wasn't present. I don't remember this Derek's question being raised. It's a good question. Yeah.
If I may, I mean, I will say, I think it's a reasonable question, and no one's probably opening out overnight. Like Vesh is where it is for a reason, because it's like the only place within a 2 or 3 county radius that has that kind of care for animals, because they're like really complicated and expensive places to operate. So I don't know that I think it's going to be an issue ever. It would be nice. I think I've also had to go to Vesh all hours. But I don't know, to me, that's not, I'm just not.
Yeah, I don't think it should stop this language at all. I'm just thinking as we're looking at zoning, we should look at that.
Yeah.
To say, hey, should we add animal hospitals with a new zoning table saying it's permitted in these districts as well? So down the line, we're not prohibiting an animal hospital from ever opening because there's no language for it, right? So that was my only point. I think this is very clear. I think that I can agree GI might be a little odd, but like if we allow medical facilities there, I don't see why it shouldn't be transposed for animal facilities as well, right? So I think that keeps everything kind of in line, in my opinion.
One other question that I have, unless anyone else who hasn't spoken as much wants to say anything. Putting aside animal medical facilities of all kinds. I was wondering about the kennel piece, because like, does Ollie's law essentially now mean that like we don't have a say in where kennels can be located? Because that actually seems slightly problematic to me.
So it goes to the licensing board? What discretion do they have?
And like, according, how would they make that decision if there's no zoning rules about it, I guess is my question.
And that would be a good question for Eric, I think, but I'm not
Okay.
sure.
But
Or the clerk,
Probably
or
does the
the
law
or the
require-
licensing
Right.
commission.
The law requires us to remove those zoning barriers?
That's what I'm reading that, from this, explanation.
I mean, I think the
Yeah.
law just says, I'm not reading the actual law right now, to to be fair. The law just puts kennels under MDAR's jurisdiction. And it gives them the ability to work with an appointed advisory committee to create standards and enact regulations, whatever that means. But like, I don't even know if that's happening yet or if regulations.
So, yeah, actually, the way you read it earlier, and I thought about this earlier, it made it seem like you can't have zoning restrictions if you have kennel licenses.
Yeah,
So-
municipality cannot
Right.
require a special permit for animal kennels
Perfect.
if there is a licensing process through the city clerk.
So would it be better to take that out of the city clerk's hand and keep it in planning or zoning, right? Like,
That's an interesting question.
Right.
because then you could still set your restrictions to it and still have to go before, planning board.
Yeah,
Mike?
because one thing that actually, where I do think, Mike, you have a point, is that when there is a place on these like borders where like Jim's Tree Service, I can't tell you how many emails I have about Jim's Tree Service from the
I
last.
live,
few years.
I'm the
You live
precinct
it.
counselor, so
I know.
I get 'em.
But I think in my mind, I was like, we need an ordinance. But if it's in the clerk's hands, we can't have an ordinance that says you need a special permit. So we do need I think what actually has to happen is it has to come out of the clerk's regulation and it has to there has to be an ordinance that says like, if you're in GI, but you're on a boundary.
I mean,
Because
that particular GI section of town is very narrow.
there's conflicting needs in that area. I mean, we deal with this on Hope Street too, with the railroad.
It probably should have never existed, but
Yeah,
I bought my house in 1988. In 1989, they changed that zoning without talking to any neighbors. It just happened. And it's been a nightmare ever since.
What was it designed to incur? Was there a particular,
It was all residential.
but what was there that made it incline anybody to change it to?
Well, not to beat this up too much, but
It's the power of zoning.
well, in the past, like years ago, they created zones for, listen, I wanna have a widget factory. We can have you can put it right there. And, so, there's a lot of spot zoning and it just grew. And then the next thing you know, and there were people that were on the planning board. I may have been one of them that now regrets giving Jim's Tree Service permission to set up shop where he has no business really being there. Because there's houses behind him, there's houses next to him, there's houses across the street. And it's, and now there's a truck depot there on Wells Street. That I went round and round with this body and zoning boards. of
I'd like to
appeals.
just,
But anyway.
I don't want to interrupt you,
Right.
you gotta stay to the topic,
Yes.
right?
for the
Point
sake
is,
of this,
I like your idea.
but for the sake of this, we can vote on this. And this will not affect the fact that we then will want to create an ordinance and move it out of the clerk's jurisdiction, correct?
Would we be able to go back?
We're not saying anything in here about zoning or not. We're saying we're changing the definitions and complying with the law.
I don't know really the context of all these laws, and if that's an option or if it's problematic to take it out of the clerk. So I couldn't
could-
answer that.
Could it be the clerk? The clerk is just a mechanism to get the license.
Yeah.
Couldn't the
Yeah.
clerk be reviewing this when she looks at the application? So if someone comes in for a license, I want to open an animal clinic. She pulls this up and says, well, no, you can't put it there, Mr. Jones. I can't approve your application because our zoning law doesn't permit you.
No,
It's not-
it's on kennels.
I know, but the kennels was on here, but I'm saying, the mechanism of how she did it. We asked,
Right.
how did they decide where to put them? I'm saying, could the clerk, before we had to make this change, when she got the request for the license, she looked at our zoning laws and said, Mr. Jones, I can't let you put that clinic there.
Well,
And zoning laws don't
The
allow
way
it.
the law reads is you can't do that, right? So like,
But no, it says you can't have special permits. So you can still have a no and a yes.
well, we would have to do that within an ordinance.
Yeah, that can't be decided through the clerk's, like the clerk can't be responsible for deciding if a business, like, she's gonna come in and say, are you in general industry? Are you in
Right.
X, Y, and Z? Yes, here's your license.
But if it's not permitted in that, she can't give over a license to operate a clinic, that's not, that.
Right, if
That's not
anyone came
permitted.
in and like general residential,
Right.
she would say, no, it's not allowed here.
Correct, so why don't we just get rid of the special permitting thing and leave it alone? You just get rid of.
How would she have that
special
power?
Kennels and it doesn't matter.
Because the zoning laws don't apply to it.
Right, that's what's confusing for me,
Yes.
is that like, if we're totally taking kennels out of zoning regulation, then I share that question of like, how does the clerk decide, make a decision?
Well,
about
we just
whether-
take it out because we're not allowing special permits.
It sounds like we need.
As long as we don't have a special permit
Oh.
requirement, we just put a no instead of a special permit. No,
Oh, that's-
no. So
Seriously.
now there's no special permit there, so we're not breaking the law by having a special permit, it's just no. So the clerk looks at the application, she
Oh,
says
so
no.
there you go. That's a great idea.
And then the question is where's the no's and where's the yes?
Right,
Well,
but
do you want those to be all no's?
Well, but we're striking kennel from that language, aren't we?
That's what I'm saying, we're only as far as I understand, we're only striking it because we have special permits.
So we could either A,
Oh, I see what you're
keep
saying.
animal kennel and medical center clinic and make those SPs no's in those areas.
Got it.
And say we don't want any residential anywhere,
Period, that's it.
Right.
If I want them there.
which might be a clean way. So you could keep the language saying animal kennel or medical center clinic. And then the only place we're requiring a special permit is in the two residential. Just make those no's. They're not allowed in residential. We don't want a kennel in a residential district and we don't want an animal hospital, you know?
I mean, I don't know. Personally, I think it's fine to have a clinic in a residential area. Because like I say, I live around the corner from one that's in a residential
And you
area.
have
I do as well.
But,
You have a different kind of
Oh, it's
business.
one up the street. Down
Yeah.
there. What's his name?
Funk, yeah.
Right, but
I mean, it's,
that's a pre-existing condition.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I don't technically know. It probably, I don't know if it is technically it's surrounded by a residential neighborhood. I don't know if it's technically in a residential zone, to be fair. I mean, if that's the cleanest way to do it, let's just do it that way, because I think.
That's what I interpret.
So suggesting rather than requiring a special permit to say no.
Say no, then
And-
you're not violating that law.
So I would suggest that if we were
So
to,
we're changing the special permits to no and all the no's to yes.
I would suggest,
Wait, I,
No, because
Many of them.
semi-residential is a no. I think that could be a yes, but the main residential ones. Like, I don't know, like I could swing either way about rural residential where I live, because it's out,
oh, you look at
To make it a yes.
yeah.
Just give it an SP.
Change it to something.
Yes, no.
Are we certain that it's really just about the SP?
That's how
That's
I
what
read
it says,
this.
language.
Not permitted to have SP if you have an existing process in place.
so I would just offer from a process point of view, I know we didn't have any public comment. But this is a public hearing we just had.
Mhm.
I think if we're talking about changing it, that would be a substantive.
Yeah, that's.
That is a
We'd Have to go
Yeah.
back through the whole process again.
That's
Like a reinitiation of a totally different.
I hate to throw a wrench into it, but maybe that's the way to go.
I think one of the biggest complaints I've received, well, I can't go on topic here, but I will say that taking our time with these things is gonna be favorable with the general public, right? Like,
So one thought I would have is we pass this, which is now we've separated animal treatment
Mhm.
from animal kenneling. And then we could find out how kenneling can be handled. And then it could be a separate initiation about whether we want to have an ordinance for animal kenneling that doesn't include special permit. If that is possible to do that.
So how do
It
you-
sounds a lot
How
cleaner.
do you handle the table use then? Table of use, we don't talk about that yet?
you'd
We
have
just
to add a
separate
separate,
them out.
you'd have to add animal
Two different
kennel,
types
kennel
of-
as its
As a
own.
separate,
Yeah.
as a separate item.
So that's fine.
With a new initiation, after it's clarified, that's not gonna get the state riled up in some way, because we have a paragraph of explanation, we don't know if the state would say, oh, no, you can't do that or something, I don't know.
Or we just do them both at once?
But we have this in the pipeline.
Mhm.
We just had a public hearing with no public.
Okay.
And so we can move this forward. And it seems like it makes sense from a zoning point of view to separate out kennels and clinics.
Right.
So,
But if we do this, to do this now, should we talk to the clerk? 'Cause now you're putting the clerk in a bond.
Why don't
We're
we
taking
just-
out all the zoning, so when she gets the next application, she has nothing to refer to as to whether she can permit it or not.
but I don't think the clerk is,
Can we hold
For the
off
kennels,
on
right?
moving
No.
anything forward around the kennels and just make the clinic change?
That's what I'm saying, that's fine, but you're eliminating any zoning stuff
Can we?
for clinics.
You could table.
Kennels,
But why? No,
Because it's all in one
the
motion.
kennels in.
Yeah.
You don't eliminate the kennel.
but he does what he's doing.
I understand. Can we change?
I don't think the clerk is required to look at the zoning in doing the licensing.
I'm actually looking for the kennel license stuff on the clerk, but I can't find it anywhere on the Greenfield
Dog
website.
license.
I don't think she would refer to it.
It's
Dog-
not.
It needs to look anywhere.
Because we.
I don't know what the process
But
is.
if it's, but if he said he wants 4 dogs, then it put a kennel next to your house, 5 or more.
We should only talk one at a time.
Kennel license.
Right.
And there's, I thought there was a whole process there. And I believe, because I looked at this, because at the time I had 4 dogs. And I looked at it and I thought the process was if you want a kennel, you had to go to planning and zoning, because I looked at this. And now that's being eliminated. So that's why I never applied for one, because I didn't want to go kind of zoning appeals, right? So like, I just admitted to breaking the law, but hey, so anyways,
I mean, well, I'm just skimming the actual like MGL for the law here. There's a lot of new requirements, the new requirements they've highlighted for you, which is very nice of them. There is a lot of new reporting and inspection requirements that the town is gonna have to put into play anyways. And basically, I mean, this was like a easy one. I didn't really do a lot of research on this one for tonight, but I think what would be the best path is most likely that we table this or we amend to comply with just the Ollie's Law portion of it and we remove the other portion. And then we have 2 ordinances that travel side by side. But I would like to finish reading the Ollie's Law because I didn't. I didn't get through it. There's a whole thing about animal sale and other things in there.
I
So,
mean, you have a good point, right? And I think the other point is if we're gonna change the animal kennel later on, we're gonna do this, a special meeting anyways, a joint meeting to do that, right? So you could almost do them both at the same time again, you know, like,
mhm. Yeah, we could just, I think both things. I don't see a date to comply other than that all of the like our reporting to the state has to be in by June 1st. So we have a while. We could just table this and then know what we're coming back to next month in terms of doing ordinances or amending this motion.
One comment I make about the timing on the clinic is, I know Eric was attempting to kind of move this through in the most quick process possible so that this particular transaction, if it does happen, could happen.
Mm,
So if we have no issues with the medical, it feels like we might want to just keep that one moving
mhm.
rather than tabling them both. And I'm not hearing any issues with that one, so maybe we should just keep that one going and separate them somehow.
And I'll offer again that I think independent of that individual, I think it makes sense to separate these 2 things out. These are 2 independent
Separate
things.
Yeah, I think we partly got ourselves confused by having them together, even though I totally understood why.
Yeah, and I think that passing this one, getting this off the books, moving it forward, and then there's a lot of clarification to happen about the kennel factor and not conflating it with this would be helpful. And then seeing if there makes sense to have a refreshed ordinance kennel specific
Mhm.
rather than combining with this, I think would be
yeah.
the wise and cleanest thing to do.
My only concern is that not that this would happen, but if somebody goes in and applies for a kennel permit tomorrow because they want to have 6 dogs, there's nothing stopping them.
There's no information about how to actually do
Yes,
that.
everybody won't know what to do.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, what I.
Well, that's gonna put the clerk in an awkward position because I know when I called and asked the question, it was, you have to go in front of the planning board and get a kennel license.
But
So-
if we put the kennel change on, if we table that and wait, nothing's changed. The only thing that will have changed is that the animal clinic process moves.
But this came together as one.
Yeah.
Can we
We,
separate them?
no, if we approve this,
Substantive
it eliminates kennels from the zoning
And
ordinance.
we cannot separate them here.
No, and as much as I have empathy for people trying to get things done in a timely
Oh, no,
manner,
I understand. I didn't.
I also believe that like it's our due diligence to take our time when these zoning changes come through and not,
I totally.
you know,
So you're saying the caution would be to see if there's a reason to safeguard against unwise kennel placement. And so coming forward with 2 totally separate, this one plus a kennel one.
yes,
And so keeping the kennel safeguard in place for the time being.
yes, yes,
I
because
do the rest of it.
there's no mandate right now saying we have to have it done by a certain date, right? Like that we saw anywhere. And the problem I have with this is it's gonna put the clerk in an awkward position if somebody is like, oh, here's my opportunity to come down.
That's right.
Because she can't say you gotta go to the planning board anymore, right? Like she can't say it. It's striked.
Right, she has no.
So that's my biggest concern. And like I said, if we're gonna do this down the road, we're gonna need a public hearing anyways for the other change. So, you know, in a way, like I didn't think this one was gonna be controversial.
Yeah.
I didn't spend the time I probably should have on it, but here we are, right? So.
Yeah, the only trouble I have is then we're keeping a special permit in place for kennels against the state law.
But maybe for 1 more month,
Right.
which it's already been
And
3.
But since last,
I think you could have the argument that we reflected upon the changes and it didn't make sense and we're working on a solution. It's not like we're saying.
Yeah, they're
we're
a
not
little
gonna change
busy
it.
right
Yeah.
Helpful to learn a little bit more from the licensing side.
yeah.
Yeah,
How this works and understand the intersection before we make this decision.
yeah.
Well, the licensing side and like, I'm looking at the zoning map and like, there's areas where I would think that a kennel or anything would be fine that are zoned residential. Yeah, I would just like I mean, maybe Eric could explain the thinking if we have him next time, but
Kennels are generally,
I think it really
I think
depends on what
suburban-
town you're
suburban
in.
Residential.
yeah, well, even rural, like Berniston Road, Barton Road,
Rural residential.
or even by the office park.
But then you get into these zones where it's like you are in rural residential, but you still have a close neighbor.
Yes.
And so it's a hard thing. Like I just think of the rooster complaint.
Hmm.
And it's like, we can't do anything about that because of the zoning of where that is.
Right.
And yet that's a person's home with a property line with a rooster within like 10 feet of a property line. That affects. So I just. Yeah, I want to personally look a little more at the zoning map when I think about this coming. And really understand which zones I think a special permit is necessary. In which case it has to come out of the clerk's domain. If we're gonna do that.
But if we can pull it out of the clerk's domain, we should understand what the clerk does and how we would then do that part of the review of it.
Yeah,
I think the only difference
Is
is
Eric gonna do that?
the clerk has an annual fee, kennel fee that she's gonna make people like a dog license in a way. So
But is she doing all, like, there's a million new requirements in this law that I'm reading, like, you have to send an inspector out once a year, you have to, like,
those are all great questions. Yeah.
there's all these
We
new
need to-
requirements
we
in
need to talk
yellow
about
here,
that.
and so it's like, for this type of, reporting and surveillance
It's like,
and inspection, is she the one who's like starting the trigger of that procedure, or is a department?
yeah, another person.
Could be licensing. I mean, I don't think you
Department.
paid a clerk with licenses, right? Don't, maybe you do.
Yeah,
Pay her,
you
yeah.
you buy the licenses from the clerk. So like that, what you're talking about, enforcement, like that almost to me is a health department issue, like in my opinion, because it's.
Yeah, this says who it has to go under. I just skimmed past it, but it's like you have an option whether it's under like the animal control, the police department, police officer, animal control officer. It even says building inspector. So it's like you get to choose your mechanism
Mhm.
for how you enforce.
Our current code is that they have to be inspected by the ACO if they're
Yeah.
applying for a kennel license.
Sadly, I don't think we can do this tonight, and I would make a motion to table it.
I would
You
second that
want it?
motion.
Okay, you want to table it or you just want to?
I want to table it because I want to parse out the two pathways
Okay.
and know which one I,
And I think
I've
I
done
heard
my
a second,
homework
so
on
that's
too.
non-debatable, so I'm gonna stop. So we have motion to table. Table. Well, it's on 6:30. Right, 030. Um, Seconded by Gordon. All right, we're gonna have to take a roll call vote, so. Counselor Mastro,
Yes. The table.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
yes.
Counselor Mayor.
Yes.
I'm a yes as well.
Okay. And can I have a planning board member? Someone want to make a motion to table?
Table.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you, Peter. And again, according to open meeting law, whenever anyone's participating remotely, you have to do a roll call vote. We'll start with you, Peter.
Aye.
No.
Tom?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. 4-1. Okay. That was easy.
Always a way to make things more exciting.
Number 2.
Number 2 is a zoning amendment 200-14 Central Commercial District CC, Section B, use permitted through subsection 18 multifamily dwelling in accordance with Section 200-40B 1 and 4 through 9. So I will read that. Get to it. So this is order number FY 26-038. The city council moved that be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200, section 200-14, Central Commercial District CC subsection B, uses permitted. Paragraph 18, multifamily dwellings in accordance with 200-40B 1 and 4 through 9 to add the following language in bold. Multifamily 18 in parentheses. Multifamily dwelling in accordance with 200-40 subsection B 1, 4 through 9. All multifamily developments within the following areas of the Central Commercial District shall be mixed residential / business uses. Main Street from Fort Square east to Franklin Street, Federal Street from Main Street to Pleasant Street, and all of Bank Row, and further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Second,
Not writing your whole name. Second. All right, so we are gonna open this up for conversation.
Can I go?
Absolutely.
So, as you probably know, we've done this before. We shrunk Main Street again. Mostly because when you get down to Coleraine Street, right before Coleraine Street, there's 2 homes on the north side of Main Street. And that was, to me, a valid reason to go further east. Because the way this is written, those homes could be, required to. First, so they're already there, and then everything else is car dealership, garage, so we went to Foursquare.
Yeah,
And to further compromise.
yeah, and I think the primary objective here is to protect commercial storefront space along Main Street in the Central Commercial District, right? I think, I will say that I've gotten a couple calls from a couple counselors and they've asked that we move it to Conway Street. I wanted to talk about this in this meeting. To me, it's one street over and I think it will be there, but what it does is it keeps that Fort Square neighborhood kind of neighborhoodish, and honestly, I looked at it and I said, well, it keeps that plaza across the street protected. It keeps the Rite Aid protected. It keeps all the storefronts protected. So I didn't have a major problem, but I wanted to have a conversation here with everybody and see what they think about both options, really.
I don't know if the objection to the boundaries, but I was saying, do we want to be a bit more specific in so much as we're just saying it shall be mixed use? But that doesn't preclude someone from building a multi-story residential building and putting a lobby on the first floor and an office building, offices on the second floor. That's still mixed use. But they now taking the first floor and have turned it like we did, the one that's there, turn it into a lobby with desks and a reception and this, that, and the other. So the commercial space is gone, but they put an office floor with 3 or 4 offices in it. So we want to be more specific and say,
Well,
ground floor use.
I think that one of the ordinances we did pass covers that, right?
First floor, right, first floor business.
Has to be commercial.
Commercial, yes. So the first floor is required to be commercial, and then we allowed 50% of the first floor to non-street facing to be residential for accessible housing, right? So I think we're covered under that. It's a great question, but it's been a while since we.
As to
Mixed
your
I'm not giving
up the
street side.
it was an argument made, what about
Street side, the highest traffic units shall be ADA compliant. Why would it cross
the street from
First of all,
it's all wine
on commercial space.
not the old wine rack, but across the street from the old wine rack.
We're limited.
But this hinder a developer from.
Why we have this?
Why we do this.
Because it's not mixed use, it's just residential.
It's a private, number one, it's a private parking lot. Secondly, if they wanted to develop it, well, you have to put a commercial property up.
You're talking about the parking lot that's between the package store and where
The Mohawk Mall.
Mohawk Mall.
Yeah. So, and the way I see it is,
The gas station.
yeah. The way I see it is everybody's pushing for this 53 Hope Street project that is fine with putting commercial business on the first floor. Well, why would you want that and not have it on Main Street? That makes no sense to me. So I think that this is, again, another fair compromise to bring it up another 2 streets.
Yeah.
And I just don't want to shrink our Yeah, I don't, I'm all for housing. I think it's very important, but not at the expense of commercial business. And I would get, if you even look at social media, everybody's complaining about no businesses on Main Street. Empty storefronts. Well, I think we should focus our attention on filling those empty storefronts and perhaps getting more. So I just don't want it to like keep shrinking and, so if, you know,
I'm gonna go to Counselor Bullock next.
So, okay, first thing is 53 Hope Street's in central commercial, so it's not like it's outside of that zone. I just want to make sure that that fact is in the ether of reality.
It's out of this change.
it's out of it.
Right, it's out of this change, but in the central, right now, 53 Hope Street's in central commercial. Okay, and here's my issue. I like the idea of, like, I like the concept you have of like, how do we make sure that, and I agree with this. I agree with this motion, and I agree with a lot of the debate that we had in the last set of zoning changes, that there does need to be a protection of downtown. We live in an area where I think that people want a vibrant downtown that's not just, you know, offices that you can, go into. The flip side of that for me is, what do we do when we have commercial businesses, commercial space downtown that isn't being utilized? And so then we're like holding hostage these buildings in this space and saying, you must use this for X, for only a business can go in there, only a commercial business, it's open 9 to 5, you're going to sell a thing, you're going to provide a service, whatever it is. You can't have a lobby and then an office upstairs, or a nonprofit can't occupy it and then have businesses upstairs or housing. What do we do then when we just have boarded up or vacant businesses?
We fill them.
That's not our purview. Like, we don't fill them. That's not a thing that the city council does. It's not a thing that the planning board does. That's not how the economy works, and it's not how industry and development work. Like, yes, the town can incentivize business, but we don't, the mechanism of driving industry within a town is not forced through city government. And so the flip side for me is, like, I just watched this whole debate in Portland, Maine, where the city council decided that they are going to fine businesses who have empty storefronts, right? Go walk downtown. I went downtown last week and I talked to about other things, but I brought up this idea to a couple of business owners,
Of course they didn't like it.
Of course they don't like it. And so you can get out of the fine in Portland by having, like, an artist or a display or whatever. There's all these ways to get out of it. But the thing for me is that how do we not hold hostage properties and have them be revenue generators while at the same time maintaining a character of downtown that has commercial space? Like, that's the balance that I think we're needing to find an answer to. And for me, I do agree with these boundaries, so I'll say that. When I'm having a hard time with the change you're offering is that, for me, more restrictive zoning is not what is going to entice economic development into downtown. And so, so I'm having a hard time weighing the realities of the economic situation and the zoning situation we're in. And I don't think the answer is to tie business owners and property owners' hands especially when we have something in place that says X%, I think it was 50%, 50% of the first floor would remain commercial. Because honestly, when I look at the central commercial district, like it goes all the way down Hope Street, up Olive. There's like, that line behind, like down onto Washington,
That's general commercial Hope Street, isn't it?
central commercial goes all the way up to Armory Street or past Armory.
It stops at Armory and then below it is general
On
commercial.
the other side of Hope Street, it goes further than Armory. Yeah.
But to answer your question regarding,
First, Counselor Gordon was,
Yeah,
I want to
thank
say
you.
something
Yeah.
first, and then we'll go back. And then we got,
And Counselor Minoss since hand up as
I want
well.
to give everybody that didn't talk a chance to talk.
Appreciate it. Yeah, I share those concerns. I was also going to say that I would support moving this just a little bit over to Conway Street, and it's not a hill I'm gonna die on because I don't think it makes that much of a difference. But you know, there is a big empty lot there. I would love to see something go in that lot, and I agree with what Councilor Bullock is saying, that, you know, the fewer restrictions we put on what that could be, the better chance we have of getting something that could go in there. You know, does that mean anything's gonna go in there? Maybe not. Like, we don't have control over that, but you know, there's a lot of space opening up right around there with the wine rack being torn down and everything, and like, I would love to just keep our options open. So that's why I would support moving it over to Conway Street, but
Yeah.
like I said, I'm not gonna lose sleep over it.
I'm gonna go to Counselor Minhas real quick, and then you'll have your chance to
Okay.
comment. Go ahead, Counselor.
I hope you can hear me all right.
Yes.
Can you? Okay. Couple things. One, like I've expressed before, I support the idea of protecting our businesses, especially downtown businesses. I can't count the number of times where people are like, I can't find a solid job. I can't find a job that pays me like a livable wage, or someplace that's close, and I don't have to travel to Northampton or Amherst or something like that. So as much as we need housing, I think it's also important that we plan for the people who would be living in these areas to have businesses where they could work around here. Second, another thing, um, Councilor Bullock, I don't know if I misinterpreted what you said, but business on a way to when Councilor Mastrotaro was talking about how we can fill those empty spots with incentives or the carrot or the stick idea. Business owners, if a place is empty, I mean, I don't want to, I've made the mistake before of saying something and then it gets like put out into the recorder and they're like, oh my God, Wahab, hater of whatever families. But people who are owners of properties, they're not the ones that are usually operators of the businesses. So if we were to penalize a property for keeping a storefront vacant, that would not be hurting any business. That would just be hurting a property owner who owns a very significant large property, probably one of the best in this town. So there's that component to it. So I think there's multiple ways we could go about this, but I do, again, just like the idea of coupling the two needs of housing and business. Also, another thing that I like about that, especially in your downtown district, is you kind of have less chances just because of like how, like, space wise, you have less chances that you'll have like giant corporate businesses coming in, which I'm not most in favor of. But you could have more of a space that would be more incentivized for someone who's local to gather up some funds and open up a shop downtown. So I think all of these factors just at play, it could potentially turn out to be something well where we can have both their housing needs met while also providing people livable, honorable jobs in the vicinity of the places where they live.
Thank you. I know.
Yeah, I just want to give planning board members in a moment a chance to weigh in.
Yep.
Now good?
Yeah, let's do that and then we'll go back to second round.
Very good.
Yep.
Anyone want to start?
I had my comment.
Okay.
No, I like I mean, I support the concept of maintaining and strengthening the commercial sector, the commercial store frontage while you're building housing too. And seeing the two of them as reinforcing, not in competition, because I really don't see them in competition, and nor do I think, I mean, housing hasn't so far hurt any of the downtown businesses. So there's a lot of worry about what's going to happen, but that is not what has hurt businesses downtown. We need more people to support those businesses. So I actually think the housing probably is going to be a help to the business. It's not a drag on them. So I don't like to talk about, think about them like we have a competition and I don't think we do. We really need them both. And they will reinforce each other. But I like the idea of encouraging downtown. What I wonder though, particularly since there is also a lot of vacant storefronts, any new development that puts in commercial downstairs, it's going to be expensive commercial relative to what is already available. So, it's like businesses who can't afford what's there currently, that's going to be, the more expensive kind of real estate. So, but are there ways to have flexibility on this? If, for example, a project happens that we think makes a lot of sense and putting down, grounds for commercial perhaps doesn't on that site, and yet we really want the project to happen. Is there a variance or, what kind of flexibility, or this is just absolute, you have to do it? I mean, a lot of projects, residential projects, the ground floor space is really hard to fill, it becomes dead space. And so we have a lot of dead space, so we don't need more dead space. So I worry a little bit that we could just have kind of a straitjacket on a project that we really want to see happen. And they're going to look at it like, Christ, no one's going to fill that space, or how do we fill it when there's all this other vacant space? And do we want to say, well, therefore don't build anything there?
Yeah. Can I go?
Yeah, I worry a little bit.
And then
I like that.
I'll let you go because I think we're going to say a lot of the same things.
Were there more?
Were there more
Planning board
planning
who
board?
wanted to?
Yeah, I'll call on myself. I'll be brief. I totally agree with the synergy of ground floor commercial and upper floor housing. And we have a number of things in the pipeline right now for housing, several different projects that are in process. And it'll take a while till those are completed and those are filled. But I think this kind of proposal, I mean, just seeing, it was just eating me up to see that there are several shops that are going to be eliminated, and that's going to be a lobby and on Main Street.
Thank you.
And, and I saw, I was just like, I had to vote yes, because of our current ordinance. But I said, this is a mistake. This is not how downtown development should happen. So I'm very pleased with this. I think 100% we should do this. And I think you sometimes have to have patience. I think it's protecting a resource that once you lose it, it's gone. And so that's my summary opinion about that.
I'll definitely sentiment that. I mean, like we're doing a lot of things. We're trying to do a lot of things. And I think the important thing is if you look at this very small protected area, it keeps that greenfield feeling in place of what greenfield is all about, right? You have people living above. Hopefully you get some active businesses down below where people are grabbing coffees, they're grabbing bagels, a lot like if you go to Turner's Falls downtown, it's a lot similar, and those storefronts are pretty full, right? I also believe that we've newly passed the parking benefit district, which is going to allow revenue to start flowing into our downtown central commercial district. That will hopefully, I'm not talking about next year. This is a 5-10 year plan, right? Like down the road, the GBA, Hannah, the parking benefit district, Amy, let's get downtown vibrant again and find businesses that fit and people that will work there. But if we don't protect it, like you said, it goes away. And we've already given up 50% of that space to allow for accessible housing, which I think is really important. I think that accessible housing in the back allows people that might not be able to live in their house right now because it's too big, find something that's more convenient to get downtown to buy from local resources, they're easily accessing those stores from that apartment in the back or the apartments. We're not asking for a lot of real estate here and this, like Amy and Hannah both were in favor of this prior. I just think it's us not trying to be really restrictive. It's just us setting a standard in our city saying, this is what we want and this is where we want it, right? And I'm gonna leave it at that. You're up.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth, as far as this, the whole reason I put this forward was when I saw what happened to, what's going to happen to 107 Main Street. We're losing, we've already lost one. She didn't relocate in town, she moved to Butler. And there's gonna be 2 or 3 more businesses that are gonna get
This is where Moldavia is now.
Moldavite trees, Moldavite trees.
Yeah.
And good for her, she's doing great business in Boca. And I saw that, I said, well, we gotta put an end to this because if a business, if a building owner has the opportunity to do what was done in that, on that block, like you said, once they're gone, they're gone. Once the stores are gone, the stores are gone. And if they're empty now, you can do the carrot and the stick. They do it, not all at Portland just did it. San Francisco's been doing it. New York City is doing it. And if the problem with some of these empty storefronts is the property owner potentially charges inflated rent, and they're looking for the long haul, the 10-year lease. And if allowed, if I don't rent it, I can use it as a write-off, but I'm gonna hold out for that 10-year lease. So if we could come up with incentives for, short-term leases, a way to help a startup business, there's no reason why a landlord or building owner can't say, hey, listen, you want to start a business, I'll give you a short-term lease, maybe 1 to 2 years, see how it works. And if it's successful, well, then we're going to renegotiate the rent. So there's a way to fill those spaces, but people like us, the EDC, the Director of Economics, Housing, and the Business Association, we need to put our heads together and figure out a way how to get businesses in town and have the building owners happy with it. So the vacancy tax does work, but you also have to have the carrot as opposed to just a stick. So, but it's pointless. We cannot gonna fill up the storefront if the storefront goes away. So, and again, I don't want to see what happened on that block happen again. So.
It seems strange though, with so much vacant storefront, that they couldn't find storefront in town if that was where they wanted to stay.
Well, I think some of it had to do with the building owner as well, a relationship.
Whatever, I mean, we don't have there's available space here in town right now, it's not
Yeah,
like.
but it might have left a bad taste in their mouth, like she's already, I guarantee you that business owner has spent their own money to paint that space, make it feel like their own, et cetera. And then it's just like, oh, now we're not renewing your lease. And she's probably invested capital into that business and it would leave a sour taste in my mouth too, right? So like, and if these protections were in place, it wouldn't have happened, So, that's kind of where I stand with that. I mean, I think there was somewhere else I was going with this and then I forgot, so. It's been a long day.
clarifying?
Yeah.
Oh, you go ahead. No, no, you go.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so what you said about Turner's Falls got me thinking about Greenfield, Turner's Falls, and commercial space, I guess, on Avenue A.
Mhm.
I was just thinking, wow, like actually walking down Avenue A, there's the Power Town Apartments, I believe,
Mhm.
on adjacent to like one block over from the main commercial space. And there's many, I mean, I assume hundreds of people. I don't really know how many people live there. But they have their Turner's is doing really well right now. It hasn't always been the case, but they do have large residential
And we use it
buildings.
here in our central commercial.
Yeah,
This is a little area that,
Well, is Powertown public housing or private that's managed by the housing authority?
good question. I'm not sure.
It's one or the other. Either way, it's heavily subsidized or,
Yeah.
which I just want to say. Because
Uh-huh.
that's a big thing that's coming up lately in the discussions of housing.
Yeah, so it's on both sides of the street,
Yeah.
way downtown.
There's also the ARC housing is on the other side of Avenue A on, I think it's Third Street. Down there.
Mhm.
And all of those shops that are currently, that are currently filled like Waterway, there's a salon, the Upper Bend, those all have housing above them.
Right.
As it should be. That's fine. As
I'm
we,
just saying, if we're using that as an example, it doesn't show that housing and commercial can't coexist.
and it does coexist and it will coexist in the central commercial district because Hope Street, all the side streets, Conway Street, Coleraine Street, or Conway, all those side streets that are still within the CC district, which Chapman, which we agreed made more sense for fully mixed multifamily dwellings, because it's right off of Main Street. You can put people in there that can walk to Main Street. We've eliminated this from this act. At first, this was like an all or nothing, and then we kind of pondered it, and then we came to this, then it came to second round, right? So I don't think anybody disagrees with you that it does coexist very well. I just think having the
should.
protections of the storefronts on that main street is important.
The boundaries make sense.
Yeah.
I think the revised boundaries, I'm certainly comfortable with the tighter ones if that's, if you're getting feedback on.
I'm gonna call on Peter. He hasn't spoken.
Oh, go ahead,
Please,
Peter.
Peter.
So I just wanted to throw out there that I know the city council gets a lot more email than the planning board does. We only see a couple, which I'm thankful for. But I will say, if you're getting feedback that the area should be smaller, I would be okay with that. In general, I would rise in favor of this. But I just wanted to make a couple remarks regarding that. I know that there'll probably be plenty of constituents that will listen in on this meeting to see how this discussion played out. And to them, I just want to say that the project that came before the planning board that we approved, although I had my own mixed feelings on it, they did do a very good job of a well thought out housing project for our downtown that does take, I know we've talked about some lost commercial space, but it does take the buildings to the right, if you're looking at them street side, the buildings to the right in that adjacent property, and really knocks down some of that blight and raises up those structures to make a much more vibrant downtown appeal. Which, when we talk about available space and trying to market the city, we need more buildings like that to sort of beautify downtown, to make it more appealing to those that are potentially moving downtown. I also talked to who will become the new owners of the cafe on Main Street, and they have a regular stream of people that come in, but midweek it's sort of dull. You know, there's not a lot of foot traffic. Having a big residential project downtown, I think both the EDC and the planning board have to take into consideration the idea that Main Street is not Sears, it's not A&P Grocery. There's not big anchor businesses down there, and the idea of a shopping mall or some sort of large commercial development, all of that stuff sort of going to the wayside as more and more the economy goes to the internet. So smaller shops that have a niche market, that's going to be our downtown, which having smaller storefronts in a mixed residential that can feed the smaller shops, like I think those go perfectly hand in hand. And to Turner's own success, a lot of what's downtown there are smaller shops that are in mixed residential areas. So again, that's sort of my 1,000-foot view on the whole thing, but I in general would rise in favor of it. I would vote for this in either the slightly wider or more narrow scope, but that's all.
Thank you.
Yeah, you brought up a great point, and I think another thing we all have to think about is old Wilson's building, right, which is gonna be, supposedly be a ton of housing if it ever happens.
It's also gonna be a ton of commercial space. People
Yeah.
keep harping on the housing and that, and I really wanna just say, like, that is a building that if not is blighted right now, will very soon become blighted, and it's gonna become commercial space. And I think that, yeah, I just.
That's what we're looking for, isn't it?
Yes.
Ground floor commercial and building upstairs.
Well, and it's what Peter's saying too is, and I think I've been thinking and talking with people about this with the Hope Street lot, that like. When I think about like, what does Greenfield need downtown, right? The thing you hear about, the thing people say on the internet, oh, we need a place you can buy socks and underwear. My dad always says that. We need a place you can buy socks and underwear. You need a place, right? A lot of people want the department store so they don't have to drive to Hadley or Keene or wherever. But the reality of the situation we're in tomorrow is the business that's gonna open in 6 months isn't gonna be a Sears or an Ames like
Right.
I used to have. It's right, it's gonna be the business that meets the needs of the people that live there. And so if 53 Hope Street does happen by some miracle, what's gonna be on the ground floor is the business that meets the needs of the people who live above it and that they wanna go to. And so I just think that it is this like symbiotic relationship that we have to both allow space for.
I think that's what we're all saying.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a restriction though. There's a line we have to be careful of. I don't think this crosses it. Like I'm in favor of this at this point.
All right,
We should move it along.
yeah, let's move
Yeah.
along.
Arguing.
Hey, you're used to the 8-hour meeting.
Yeah.
All right, so.
Jeez.
This isn't arguing.
I'm kidding. I am kidding.
Keep that all to your own box. It looks like we got the developers are gonna market things, opposed to stuff that.
And I will say, I keep hoping that they'd become Marshalls or something, but I'm not gonna keep my. So do you guys have to vote on this?
Yes, we were gonna deliberate on this and.
Okay, you want to deliberate and then vote and then,
Sure.
we'll vote.
So is there a motion from a planning board member
I'll make a
about?
motion to approve the promotion as presented.
So it would be rather than approving, it would be to make a recommendation.
Recommendation to send a favorable recommendation to the council on this zoning.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Planning board members? Seeing and hearing none, we'll have a roll call vote. Peter?
Aye.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
Yes.
aye. Unanimous, Peter? Thank you.
All right, with that being said, I'm gonna move this on to vote, and this will also be a roll call vote. And let's see, this is, I don't have to read this again at least. Counselor Mastero,
Let me think about it.
yes. Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas. You're muted.
I think that was a yes.
I'm a yes.
Being weird.
All right.
Sorry,
Sounded
yeah.
like a yes. Thank you.
Yes.
So that's five. All right.
See, it passes this time.
Are you guys involved in any of the other discussions?
Just note, next meeting date, regular planning board meeting is Thursday, October 2nd in this room at 6 o'clock. And is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll move.
Second? All right, we'll roll call vote. Peter?
Aye.
I.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Good
You
work
guys
with you.
gonna stay late night?
Yeah, we
Yeah, we
got
gotta-
more.
We
We're
get
not
some
done.
coffee for you or what?
We're not done yet.
I thought I'd be able to go get my books from the library. I was so optimistic.
So much for.
It's a regular meeting for you guys?
Yes.
Rest of the
Thank
day.
you.
Yeah,
Thank you. So we're gonna just keep going.
wouldn't have it any other way, right?
Counselors, the next items on the agenda were discussion items.
Come on.
I asked,
Anybody's?
The nice bed.
It's going once, going twice.
somebody will see it online.
Yeah.
So I asked the mayor to attend, and I know today was a busy day with elections and everything, so she's not here. So there'll be time to discuss this again, but like, I'm just gonna start off. The first item here is review and submit written comments, and if any, regarding the surplus property disposition and potential sale of city-owned land located on Meriden Street. So if you're not familiar, that's the old Green River Elementary School. And then another property that abuts it is the second item on this list on Petty Plain Road.
That's the house.
I'd like to just take discussion on these together because I think it makes
Yeah.
sense.
Mhm.
And I did have some questions, but I'd like to hear from other counselors. And I think from here, I could either submit questions to the mayor for you guys, or you could submit independently. It's totally up how you guys want to handle
Well, you
it.
can submit it for us, okay? I did have one question. What, are we still on the hook for the roof? On the school?
The grant. That was one of my questions. So I know there's $1 million grant, I believe it was, that required educational use.
Mhm.
Derek, do you want me to take notes so that you can actually facilitate?
Yeah, you are awesome. So that is a good question, and I was hoping the mayor was here to answer that because that was one of the questions I had. So I know there was $1 million grant awarded that stated that if we don't use it for educational use, the city would have to repay that grant. So I was wondering if the RFP process would require, this to be used for early education, childcare education. We lack early education in Greenfield. I do know we have the one Greenfield funded preschool in town, right? But you're starting to see a lot of cities like the city of Springfield and other cities. Square One just opened in Springfield, which is 3 stories, early childcare. You have the YMCA. I know they talked about it. So is this like,
But I think that what's they bought, the church that may have a box on it.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, they may still be interested.
so really, I think the big question is usually I do agree that this school isn't going to be used with our enrollment numbers. And that we're not going to need it, looking at like the capacity we have at the high school, Federal Street School, different schools like that. And the amount of money that the city would have to put into this facility. But what's the bigger picture? Because I just feel like where we went wrong with the other RFP was we weren't transparent enough, and I think the smarter move there would have been like, this is the sample RFP. This is what we want to sell this property for, so people have an idea, right? And
Wait, sorry, are you talking about the Hope Street?
yeah,
There's no RFP yet.
I understand that.
Okay.
But what I was saying,
It's not, doesn't exist. I would have it in my hand for my,
what I would find helpful
Constituents.
in this situation is before I release this for surplus property to be sold as an RFP, to have a draft RFP in place so I understand what we're trying to attract with that RFP and have some sort of general understanding on what the goal is with this property and the repercussions of selling this property, whether it be on the DPW, on, you know, the schools, whatever it may be, like what is this going to become? Let's have some substantial plan before we just say, yeah, sell it, right? I don't want to just jump into it and say, yeah, you have permission to sell it. I'd like to have a plan.
Yeah, my biggest questions specifically just because, I mean, my daughter went there.
Wow.
And so, yeah, and I love that building.
Yep.
And so, and I was very sad that it wasn't gonna stay in use for the public schools, but I also think there's multiple costs assigned to that building. There's the HVAC system that needs to be replaced. That's, I think it was around $1 million as well.
Building has been vandalized, a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Is gone.
And then there's also the
Crazy.
issue of the transportation was a cost issue for the district, that adding another bus route over there. And so I'm like clear that that ship has sailed, but I think my real question is like, what is the full cost picture of this? Like, do we have to pay back that grant at what price? If we sell it and it remains educational, are we sure that whatever those initials are for the municipal building people, are we sure that they'll accept that if it stays educational? And then I think the other question I have is like, is there a bottom threshold? So I know there's times where, we surplus land and property and we are just kind of like willing to give it to the best bidder that's in line so that we don't have to pay to keep it on the top, like pay to upkeep it, like the library, right? We didn't have many bites on the library, and honestly, it was gonna cost us a lot of money to maintain that building until it, you know, the roof caved in or who knows what, and it's on Main Street, right next door in our brand new building. So I think that that's a real question I have, is like, what's kind of like the bottom threshold here? So there is some like RFP specific questions, like, are we willing to sell it for $10,000?
Wahab has also had his hand up.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, Counselor Minhas?
Yeah, I'd just like to echo some of the stuff that you guys have been saying. I think it's kind of sad to see it not be a school. My family members, my siblings also went there. But obviously it's just not fiscally responsible to keep that running. But just talking with constituents and stuff, there's definitely a need for more educational facilities specifically for really younger children, like some sort of like a daycare type situation. And if that could fulfill, if there is still that requirement of making sure that it is an educational facility for that grant, I think that could work out. So I really liked what you said, Counselor Healy, about being more transparent about, hey, this is kind of our end goal, because that's kind of really what's important to me with this plot is, what do we want it to actually be? And that doesn't mean it's going to guaranteed to be that, but this is what we want to get out of that, other than just, hey, we're trying to cut the cost of upkeep. So yeah, if we could have like a better idea of what this could potentially be. And also, I know it's kind of like part two of that, but one of the things I would like to see here, I mean, I don't know if this is the time for that discussion, but is something, if this were to be taken over by another entity, for it to be like a local org that is involved in childcare and education right now, that could expand, that potentially could offer more services, that could be shared with part of like our school department or something. I don't want to get too much into the weeds, but there was discussion of a entity potentially taking over and freeing up some of their resources that they currently only provide just to their members, that they could offer to the high school or the middle school, that could just have a better experience for the community overall. So I don't know if this is the time for that discussion, but I do agree that there needs to be a clearer picture of what the city would like this to be. And I I hope that we wouldn't give it away for 10,000. I know there's a lot of work to be done there, but something more than that would be kind of nice if the idea is to recoup some monetary funds from there.
Thank you.
Well,
Did you want to say something first? Okay.
this is assessed at 1.7 million. So if you sell it for the assessed value, at least you pay for the roof. Worst comes to worst, right?
Yeah, so you can do that. You could set terms on RFP for minimum sale price, right? So,
Yeah, I think the realistic thing we have to do though is like people are so, there is some, I think there's many camps, but there's a lot of people who are very happy that the library sold and Greenfield Savings Bank is willing to preserve it. And I mean, it's starting to look great. They painted it last week. It looks good.
Also, it's good, once it's all done, it's gonna be reassessed.
Yeah, and then it's great, and then it's gonna create revenue. And I think that that's the piece that we want to talk about incentivizing businesses here. And that's the thing, is that we might have an old municipal building that's assessed at 1 point whatever million, but is actually in really rough shape and also needs site work and also need, like its entire interior would need to be reconfigured.
The point is if in fact we end up, the city has to pay for that roof, we want to at least be able to pay for the roof with the
Yeah.
sale, if at all possible,
That was my main question, was exactly what you said.
So we want to know the financials. I have a list of like 5 questions.
Yeah.
I'll take.
and thinking outside the box a little bit, like I'd like to know what the long-term capital spending is going to be on Federal Street School and some of these other schools that might need a new roof in how many years and how much is that going to cost? And is it more economical to, we have a new roof on this, new windows on this? Is it more economical to do HVAC and plumbing in that building than to fix Federal Street down
Yeah.
the road?
I put in here an update on the consolidation of the schools and that working group that was meeting, because like, are we sure we don't need this? I think that that's a question that I have, is like, there was a lot of different configurations that were thrown out last year. And now we're technically like, this would be the year where the 5th grade would go back down to the middle schools. But is that happening? So I think we need an update on that as well in order to know.
I do know when I was on, this was a long time ago, Planning and Construction Committee. We, at one point, our whole job was to go from municipal owned building to municipal owned building and build a forecast of expenditures based on the life of the roof on the building, HVAC improvements that might be needed. Like, so my big concern is like, I look at, especially Federal Street School, that's an old building.
Yeah.
It's what, 1890s, 1900s? There's a bunch of bricks on it with different numbers, so I don't know which one's the right number, but I saw one as old as 1890 on there. So like, if that building does eventually need a new roof, if it needs all new boilers, HVAC down the road, what are those capital costs going to cost over 5 years as opposed to, fixing up this school? Like, has anybody thought about that? Have they done a price point analysis on the 2 buildings saying which one's the better goal? Because in my opinion, I think Green River is in a much better place for a school,
Yeah.
So I know it's like, we're thinking about, oh, we got to spend this money to get it to where it needs to be. But what about our other elementary schools?
Yeah. I think we need an update on that building consolidation and capital needs, because isn't there some other big project in the middle school that needs to be
I
done?
think it's an HVAC project.
Yeah.
I mean, You go there, you were there for open house.
Oh my God, yeah. I was.
I lost like 5 pounds,
Yeah.
okay?
It was 110 degrees and there's, I mean, someone the next day, they were like, why was it so hot? I'm like, because there's no central air. And they're like, how do they go to school with no central air? I'm like, it's Massachusetts, we have no central air in our schools.
So, other than that, I think, I think having this listed and starting this discussion is an important point because we need to figure out what we're gonna do with the school. But I also think this is like months away from being able to even consider selling this property without having all this information gathered.
Agreed. I'll send you and the mayor the questions.
Give that. Any other discussions on that?
No, not without straying too far. I don't want that. Anyway.
All right.
Self-control.
So the next item on the agenda is the next meeting, which is October 14th, 2025 at 6:30 PM, City Hall Meeting Room, second floor, Zoom hybrid. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
And
Second.
And this is a roll call. Counselor Mashitaro,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Thumbs up.
Yes.
So Renee and Renee is being-
and I am a yes as well. Thank you so much, everybody. The meeting is adjourned at 8:00.
Thanks, everybody.